Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Let's talk about the state at the weight at light flyweight, where Sarah Bailey reigns as WBA champion, Lourdes Suarez reigns as WBC champion, and Evelyn Bermudez reigns as both the WBO and IBF champion, the longest reigning champion at the weight right now. Let's talk about how this division may not see a unification match for a while. Mostly because the three champions that are there, not a single one among them is with a major promotional outfit. And in order to get one champion to fight another, you have to pay to play. You have to make it worth their while. That's the way it is. We could end up seeing all three of these fighters, all three of these champions in the ring with other people. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kim Clavel of Canada finagled a situation where she challenges Lourdes Suarez for her WBC title. For those not familiar with Kim, she used to be a champion at this weight. She used to hold the same title that Lourdes Suarez has now. Wow. She still appears to be promoted by Yvonne Michel, Group Yvonne Michel, a well-to-do Canadian-based outfit north of the border. They've lured foreign champions to their shores in the past, and they may do that with Lourdes Suarez! Yeah, I could see a Clavel versus Suarez fight happening this year. What about Evelyn Bermudez? I could see Evelyn Bermudez making 1 or 2 voluntary defenses of her 2 alphabet titles before a mandatory gets ordered, though because she has 2 alphabet titles, 2 mandatories might get ordered. And Sarah Bailey? Sarah Bailey, newly crowned WBA champion of Canada, is a very good fighter. She's coming off a decision win over former champion Annabelle Ortiz, but at only 5-0, I don't actually think she's ready for an Evelyn Bermudez fight. Nope. I don't think she's ready for a Lourdes Suarez fight. I'm sorry, but those eggs need more bacon. She needs more fights, more rounds in the bank before she decides to unify a title in this division. This is a big part of the reason I'm not expecting to see a unification match happen in the light flyweight division this year. It's because the 2 more experienced champions at the weight, Evelyn and Lourdes, not a single one among them is with a major promotional outfit, and you have to pay to play. Maybe Sarah Bailey's handlers have a bit more money. Maybe. Big maybe. But even if they do, Sarah Bailey needs more experience. She needs more fights. I understand she's a bit up there in age, and she wants to hit the ground running. She wants to cover a lot of ground really fast. But at 5-0, I don't think she's ready for Evelyn, and I don't think she's ready for Lourdes. The game changer would have to be Kim Clavel. If Kim can get one of these champions in the ring, then maybe she can get the ball rolling for some unification matches, because she's done it before. And she draws well enough north of the border that she headlines her own shows. The caveat is that is purely speculative. I've heard no new news regarding Kim Clavel or a world title run. I can assume that she's on one because she's still there. She's still fighting and she's still winning, and I'm sure that she would love to become a 2-time light flyweight champion, though at this time, I know of no news of Kim facing one of these 3 champions. And them by themselves, left to their own devices, well, I told you, I'm not expecting them to unify with each other. And it was the same way before the titles changed hands. It was Evelyn Bermudez and Mexico's own Jessica Niri Plata, with all 4 alphabet titles split between them. But because neither of them are with a major promotional outfit, they never unified. They never tried to. So Jessica Niri Plata ends up getting pregnant. She ends up taking a leave. The 2 titles she was holding are redistributed, but we're still in the same situation. A division that has remained divided. So we'll see if somebody can create some waves in today's light flyweight division. Men's welterweight news, a locked-in Conor Benn quits social media to chase the WBC title.
It's only temporary.
Think in future generations, what people will find is social media is just as addictive as, say, nicotine or alcohol.
And I doubt Conroy has kicked the habit.
Conor Benn today announced he was retiring from social media. He did so by announcing the retirement on social media, therefore upholding the somewhat amusing tradition of those who publicly retire from social media only to inevitably return to social media at a later date. More interesting than Benn's claim of no socials was a reference to the year 2025, followed by the words, World Boxing Council Champion. It is interesting, this mention, only because Benn is not a WBC champion nor a champion of any description. So one must assume he aims in 2025 to challenge for and potentially win the WBC title, presumably at welterweight, against Mario Barrios, who we all know they've been talking to.
Mario's name is attached to another fight with another fighter. It is attached to a potential Pacquiao fight, but who wants to see a Pacquiao in his mid-40s fighting Mario Barrios?
29-year-old American Hum Ben, 23-0 with 14 KOs, has been linked. Barrios won the vacant belt in September of 2023 when he beat Yordenis Lugas over 12 rounds and has since defended the belt twice, last year beating Fabian Maidana and drawing against Abel Ramos. Prior to his reign, Barrios, 29-2 with 1 draw, 18 knockouts, had lost fights against Gervonta Davis and Keith Thurman, which maybe highlights his ceiling, and no doubt Benn and his promoter Eddie Hearn see the Texan as the path of least resistance at 147. Equally, there is every chance that Barrios and the world's other top welterweights believe that now is a good time to fight Benn and capitalize on the inactivity and uncertainty that has blighted the Briton's career in the past 2 years. That's perhaps why Benn, in the same social media post, made a point of saying how he is now locked in, meaning focused, determined, and ready to go. He has, after all, for the last 2 years, been locked out.
Not really. He's been locked out of the UK boxing scene, but not the American one. He had 2 fights here stateside, small ones.
Though being locked out of the UK boxing scene and unable to obtain a license over there kept him away from his adoring public.
In a manner of speaking, if the Conor Benn name is worth any money, it's worth money in the UK, not so much in the US. So even though he was able to keep busy and fight here,
wasn't for big money. Those were not big fights, just maintenance fights. And the last one was about 11, 12 months ago.
The Pete Dobson fight.
Now he could be facing Mario Barrios, and whether you like Conor Benn or not is besides the point, because he grabs headlines, he grabs attention. His return to the United Kingdom.
It's an event.
Not saying it's a Michael Jackson concert, I'm just saying that Conor Benn's return to the UK is sure to draw a crowd. Big enough that there is value in Mario Barrios facing him.
I like the fight.
All that stuff about Conor moving up for Chris Eubank, there's just too much novelty there, too much nepotism. So what if your daddies were domestic rivals with each other in their heyday? You guys are separated by weight.
Too much.
I like this fight better. Benn versus Barrios strikes me as an even fight, an even contest, because even though Mario Barrios is the weakest link in terms of champions, he's still a more experienced fighter than Conor Benn. He's still been in there with Gervonta Davis, Keith Thurman,
Ugas.
Those are all experiences that Conor Benn doesn't have, and Conor Benn's career hit a snag just as he was entering into contender status. So there are still questions that need answers when it comes to Conor Benn.
And don't underestimate the ability of what are 2 limited fighters to put on a show, because their limitations might make it that much more entertaining, a la Gatti versus Ward.
I ain't one of these young guys that looked up that fight on YouTube. I was around when it happened. I was there. And neither Arturo Gatti or Mickey Ward were thought of as the number 1 or number 2.
Pound for pound?
No, but put them together, and for all their drawbacks, all their limitations, they put on a classic fight, a classic trilogy.
Limited fighters.
Same applies to Jose Zepeda and Ivan Baranchyk. Do you remember their fight? Man alive, what a fight that was. Don't underestimate the ability of 2 limited fighters being able to put on a show, because sometimes their limitations are what make it entertaining. We know that Conor Benn is an aggressive customer. He's an aggressive fighter, and so is Mario Barrios.
Never accuse either of them of being a defensive wizard.
The added intrigue that in the last 12 months, Conor Benn has only fought once, and that was close to 12 months ago. Now, I don't imagine that the fight between them is going to happen this month, maybe towards the end of February or March, meaning the night of, Conor will have been out of action for over a year. So even if you think Conor has a higher ceiling than Mario Barrios, that he's more talented than Mario Barrios, he is also less active.
Activity matters.
It's a good fight, and it really is Conor Benn's best bet to become a champion at welterweight. Rumors abound. There are rumors that Eimantas Stanionis is in talks to face Jaron Ennis in what would be a WBA and IBF unification match. The WBO champion...
Well, I don't know what Brian's doing.
But Eimantas Stanionis recently broached the subject of unifying titles with Jaron Ennis. He wants to unify. He said Boots Ennis is one of the most dangerous fighters in boxing today. He's fast, powerful, and skilled. But I believe in myself and my ability to outlast anyone in the ring. The fans have been asking for this fight. I want to make it reality. Unification fights like this define legacies.
So things are heating up at 147 pounds. We may get Benn versus Barrios, Stanionis versus Boots.
The most news and the most movement the welterweight division will have seen in the last calendar year, because things really have cooled off since Terence Crawford left 147 and dropped all his belts.
This is the shot in the arm this division needs.
Thinking ahead, if Conor Benn is to fight Mario Barrios and he actually beats him, he's not out of the woods. You don't just get to squat on a belt. You become a champion. The other champions are gonna come after you. That's Boots Ennis. That's Stanionis. That's Brian Norman.
You become a target.
Because there's winning a title, and then there's keeping it, which is a lot harder. We'll see how Conor Benn makes out if and when he faces Mario Barrios and what comes after. Men's heavyweight news. Anthony Joshua admits time is of the essence as he targets a Tyson Fury fight this year. Often in boxing, defeats tend to open as many doors as they close and push previously uncertain fighters together. In the case of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, two heavyweights currently in a slump. This theory has never been truer. They have in fact never been in more need of each other and, as a result, never been closer to actually sharing a ring. Should that happen,
The fight's not everything it was.
it would still have come much too late, but that doesn't mean it is a fight without appeal, both for us and for them. For Joshua in particular, there is now a willingness closer to acceptance or resignation, to roll the dice in ways he was perhaps reluctant to when either unbeaten or nearer to the top of the heavyweight three.
More bullshit from boxing scene. I don't know who they're hiring in terms of writers these days.
Reluctance from Anthony Joshua to face Tyson Fury. Last I checked, before Turkey LL Sheik came into it, 2 or 3 years ago.
Do you remember Skills Challenge? And do you remember that Tyson Fury himself took to his social media to confirm the fight between them was all but made? Then comes Wilder with his rematch clause.
Fury ends up fighting him for a third time instead.
What's your point?
Where the author of this article claims that Anthony is more willing to roll the dice now. No, Anthony's always wanted to fight Tyson Fury. All he's doing is staying the course and keeping the same energy.
That's my point.
Speaking this week in Lagos, Nigeria, where he visited President Bola Tinubu, Joshua said of a potential Fury fight, "We'll see, let's get in the ring. Only God knows, but for me, we'll see in the future." Far more revealing was what Joshua said when speaking with State House correspondents about the importance of making the right moves in 2025 and reclaiming all he lost in 2024. Time is of the essence. Time is limited, he said. So I just want to put in more work. In 2024, when I look back, I believe I could have done more, and I have another chance in 2025 to do more. I'm going to make sure that I take every opportunity that comes my way. I'm going to go again. Ups and downs, they happen. To some people, it is always up. My life is up and down, so I have got to get used to the turbulent times and keep riding the wave. I can't stop now. I have to keep going until I reach my destination. The beauty of being on top, of course, is that there is always a false sense of control over both opponents and fate, and it is to your schedule other people work, and to your beat other people dance.
Crawford.
Suffer one defeat, however, And this goes, as Joshua, 28-4 with 25 knockouts, knows all too well. He has suffered not one defeat, but 4 of them in his 11-year pro career, and now knows what it is to both have and lose that feeling of control. At 35, having lost 3 of his last 7 fights, the former heavyweight champion enters 2025 as a man looking up at opponents rather than down on them. And it is from this position where it is easy to be overlooked. Potential opponents may consider him diminished, vulnerable, and there for the taking, and yet, from this same position, Joshua will be thinking only of the danger he can bring and how being written off and therefore free of pressure might not be such a bad thing after all.
When people surmise the careers of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, I've heard it said that they don't view Anthony Joshua as a natural fighter.
I've always struggled with what exactly that's supposed to mean. Are they saying the guy's manufactured? These same individuals will say that Tyson Fury is more of a natural, more talented. Now that they are both coming off of losses, one other old proverb comes to mind: hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That even if Tyson Fury is more talented than Anthony, he's not a harder worker, and his heart isn't in it.
I remember ahead of the first Usyk fight, he said that undisputed was never his goal. It was never his dream. It was always someone else's. It wasn't a priority to him.
I remember.
And I remember thinking to myself that he's going into the Usyk fight without a goal, without that power of belief, that extra inch.
You got 2 prize fighters both fighting for a prize, but one of them is fighting for something more than just that prize.
So maybe now that fighter's Anthony Joshua.
Fury might stick around, and he might have that Anthony Joshua fight if for no other reason than there's a lot of money tied to it.
Money.
But Anthony's used to making money. He was ranked number 2 behind Canelo Alvarez as the top earning boxers in the sport. I don't think it's about money for Anthony.
Try not to get misty-eyed.
He's very much affected by what people think of him, and beating Tyson Fury still means something to him. When this era comes to a close, if he beats that guy,
he's number 2.
Usyk is number 1, and there's no shame in that because Usyk didn't just beat you, he beat Tyson Fury too, and Daniel Dubois. But it might settle Anthony's soul that even if he wasn't able to beat Alexander Usyk, was able to beat this guy, and beating this guy makes him number 2, second only to Alexander Usyk.
Anthony's got 2 times as many losses than Tyson Fury has. Where Fury's got 2, Anthony's got 4.
These nuanced excuses they are now making for Fury having lost to Usyk, they can't make them if he loses to AJ. AJ's got more losses than he does.
Been knocked out 2 times more than he has.
That you now see people trying to say that Tyson Fury was damaged goods going into the Usyk fight, then what's AJ going into a Fury fight?
No excuses.
There are no excuses Fury or his fans can make if he falters to Anthony Joshua. There are no excuses. Now, I don't know how much Anthony has left to give. That's just something to consider, because this fight still is a big fight, and there's a strong possibility it happens.
That's what's on the line. Legacy, bragging rights. Who does that mean more to? AJ or Fury?
We'll find out.